Hello, I'm Mary, and I want to tell you a story, a true story. So it's 2006, and I'm in the UK, and I've had enough. And I have a thought, and the thought is, what if I go abroad, find the next property hotspot, because at that time everybody was off going to these property hotspots, and I buy a property and I renovate it and I sell it and I make millions and I live the dream abroad. It was really like the Del Boy story, but abroad. So off I set with a backpack and my partner then to find the place, the hidden treasure. And we traveled through Europe and we happened upon a place called Montenegro between Croatia and Albania. Now, Montenegro was part of the former Yugoslavia. It had come through the war and it had just come out of 10 years of sanctions. So no one had actually been in that country as a tourist for quite a long time. Also, they spoke German because they had a lot of tourists previously, and they used the euro. And as soon as I went into that country, I could tell it was going to boom. It was so undiscovered, or forgotten, should I say. And we ended up in this place called Boka Kotorski Bay. It's actually a World Heritage Site, one of the most beautiful bays in the world. And we were walking along the seafront with the backpacks, looking around at all these amazing, beautiful frontline buildings. And I came up to this palace, frontline, straight to the sea. And I looked up and I thought, wow, imagine owning something like that. And it wasn't a ruin, but it was slightly derelict and there was a big hole in the roof and it looked empty. And I fell in love with it and I closed my eyes and I just went with the feeling of what it would be like to own that. And we continued walking. And we decided the next day we were going to move to this place. This was it. This was the dream. Within 6 we could move to Montenegro. And we didn't have very much money. I think 25,000 euros. We bought a cheap little place and we tried to start renovating it. And 6 months later, I was in the advocate's office because it was such a friendly place. And I saw a photo of this palace. Now, this palace was built by a sea captain in the 18th century. It was made of this beautiful white stone from Korčula. It had Juliet balconies. It was just like something from a dream because it used to be a place called Venetia. And I said to the advocate, oh my God, that's my palace. And he laughed. He goes, Palace Milosevic, you like it? I said, like it, I want it. It's going to be mine one day. And he says, I don't think so because someone has just bought it. And I got this feeling inside of me. I can't explain it. And I said, who's bought it? Has it signed? Is it definitely sold? And he said, I think so. I said, ring up whoever's selling it. So he rang up the family and they said, yes, someone is buying it, but it hasn't gone through the court. I said to him, I'm going to buy that palace. Take me to this family. He thought I was absolutely crazy, but he took me there anyway. And I spoke to the 2 daughters of the women who owned it and they were in their 80s. They weren't there. And I convinced them that I was the person that was meant to buy this palace. And they agreed. And they said, well, if you give us 340,000 euros, you can buy it. You can have it. We will give it to you. We like you more than the other person that was going to buy it. So we walked out of their house. And I remember thinking, where am I going to get 340,000 euros? And I swear to God, within 2 weeks, we had raised 340,000 euros from family and friends, do you know what? The money just came even without asking it. And I feel that's truly because the intention to have it was so strong. And I remember well the morning we went to buy this palace and we hadn't slept and we went to the bank in the morning and we went in and we drew out, because it'd been sent over by transfer to the bank, 340,000 euros in 10 euro notes. Piles of 10 euro notes because they didn't have anything bigger in the bank at the time. And we came out of the bank with 2 plastic carrier bags that you get from like the supermarket. And we were walking down through Kotor, through the town. And I remember thinking, this is crazy. We should have maybe had some security or something. Like, what if we get robbed? This isn't even our money. What are we doing? And we got to the courthouse and all the family is standing outside and they see us walking towards them. And our lawyer is there. She's a lady called Morella. Everybody knew her. And I could see the old ladies talking to her and they didn't look very happy. And I didn't know what was going on. But then Morella was talking really loud and, and whatever she was saying, they were listening intently. And suddenly their faces lit up. And they came towards us, hugging us. And I said, Morella, what is it? She goes, they don't want to sell it to you. They think you're too young. And where have you got the money? And, you're not prestigious enough. So I've told them, you're from the kings and queens of Ireland. And I just laughed. And we went in and we signed and we came out and we went to this little cafe and we dished out all the money to these people and men put it in their black leather jackets like the mafia and they all headed off and we jumped in our car and we headed down to the front of the palace because you couldn't get in the back. In fact, you couldn't get in the door. We hadn't even been inside. And we stood in front of this gigantic palace and I said, oh my God, we've bought a palace. I cannot believe it. What have we done? And I'll never forget that feeling. And yet, there's another story. There's the mafia. There's getting beaten up on sight. There's this biggest financial crash in the history of the world. There's all the other stuff that happened. But right then, that day, I've never had a better feeling in my life. And I think everybody in their life should buy a palace. Maybe not a palace, but something that signifies going for something so great and being able to pull it off. And for me, every time I'm having a bad day, I think about that story because guess what? I bought a palace with other people's money